Is there an extra buzz now among that just Dallas community in general now that you guys have a star player who could be, I mean, honestly, the face of the NBA in the next couple of years, depending on his trajectory? I mean, do you feel like Luka being drafted in 2018 and living up to the hype has taken the excitement up another level? And how noticeable is that?
Yes, the expectations have been raised because he has shown himself to be a truly elite player, and I think a lot sooner than any of us really thought that that was going to happen. But the Mavericks, let's face it here, the Mavericks are still number two in town. The Cowboys will always be number one. A lot of times the Mavericks won't get a whole lot of attention from, I won't even say their fans are fine, but even like local media, certainly television, they won't get much attention probably until like after football season, or famously, to me, my favorite day of the season when Rick Carlisle was coaching the team was the day after the Cowboys lost their final game of the year, and then all the TVs started gravitating over to the Mavericks, and they would start asking October level questions in January, and it took all of Rick's wherewithal to just like not completely bite their heads off at that time, which was kind of funny to watch. But I still think that overall the expectations are really high. And, the expectations after reaching the Western Conference Finals last year are even higher this year, even though we know that the conference is a heck of a lot better. The conference I thought was still really good last year, but it's much, much better this year. It's back to kind of where it's been really over the last 20 years. And they made a couple of interesting moves in bringing in Christian Wood and bringing in JaVale McGee. They solved a significant problem for them, which is much better play in the pick and pop game with Wood, and rim defense and rebounding with McGee. Even if he's not going to play, he's not going to play 30 minutes or anything like that, but he'll probably play the Dwight Powell minutes, and those will be more effective minutes played for the Mavericks. So I think people are excited about that. But does that translate, number one, into more wins? Does it translate into a better playoff seed? Does it translate into anything relating playoff success? I don't know the answer to that. I don't think anybody really knows the answer to that until you start playing, because I think you see what happens when you get into the playoffs and you start a series and you see the same team all the time and you see things evolving as the series goes on that you would never have thought possible when the series began. So the expectations are high. Fans are very much in the championship or bust mode, and I guess listen. If you're a fan, you have a right to act that way. But even if it's not terribly realistic, you really should enjoy the ride. And as long as 77 is playing for the Mavericks, I think everybody's going to enjoy the ride pretty much.
What do you think Luka's ceiling is as a player? Because I see his potential being unlimited, but you get to see him almost on a nightly basis. Where do you think his potential can go? Is it compared to another player you've seen play from your just a vast experience, or do you see him just being in a category all by himself, just based on just how young he is and his vast international experience?
I mean, he could be LeBron James. I mean, he really could be. Now, he's different than LeBron. I mean, LeBron is, far more explosive as an athlete and then just more muscular and what have you. But Luka is he's so smart, and in many ways he forces people to rethink their notion of what athleticism is. Where we normally think of running fast, jumping high, explosive stuff as being athletic. You look at Luka's ability to change directions at the same speed, or even slow down, then speed up, and just really make the game work for him, and force defenders to really think about what they're doing. That's athleticism. And that is athleticism. It's just in a much different package. But there's still definite improvement in Luka's game. I mean, look, he can be a better 3-point shooter. He was barely league average last year. takes a lot of three-pointers, takes a lot of bad three-pointers, quite frankly. His shot selection can be better. He needs to be a much better free throw shooter than he's been. There's really no excuse for him to be a 74% free throw shooter. And even if you're watching, if you've seen the games prior this month leading up to the World Cup qualifiers, still struggling shooting free throws. He was 9 of 14 yesterday against Serbia. There's no reason why he can't be an 80% free throw shooter, which he was at Real Madrid, and because he's going to be shooting a ton of them. He shoots 8 a game. He may be shooting even more. As time goes on, he's got to be able to make them, and he's got to be able to be at the very least a league average 3-point shooter. You need those things. He can always cut down his turnovers. I think sometimes the game comes so easily to Luka that he needs to do things to amuse himself, to challenge himself, and he'll make some dumb plays. Sometimes they wind up being spectacular, but sometimes they wind up being turnovers, and turnovers are just something that Rick Carlisle certainly abhorred. Jason Kidd doesn't feel much differently about that. I mean, he wants, possession is really important. Possession means shots. More shots, more shot attempts, you have a better chance to win games. And so, Luka, I don't think anyone would ever ask Luka to be like Chris Paul and have like a 3.5 or 4-to-1 assist to turnover ratio, but you can't be nearly 2-to-1 or even below 2-to-1, which he was for much of last year. If Luka could be in the 2.3 to 2.5-to-1 assist to turnover ratio, it might be church for everybody. I mean, really. I mean, it's because at that time, then, and obviously assists are a function of guys making shots. But at the same time, you got to make sure that guys are in position to make shots, to be able to get them the ball, to make shots, and making the easy play. I mean, there's no reason to make the game any harder than it already is. And then, obviously, the last thing is for him to be able to calm his temper. We don't want him getting in that situation where he was at the end of last year, where he had gotten his 16th technical and it ultimately was rescinded, and he got to play in the last game of the year. But there's no reason for him to get to that point, even if he's getting hammered, which many nights he is. But, you just got to be able to choose your spots. I mean, like, really choose your spots. If it's one thing if it's, you're playing a really good team and you're into it, and something egregious happens, then okay, I could see that. But if you're playing a bad team and you're up 10 and you get whacked and you go nuts and you get hit, what are you doing? I mean, it's and again, not that the fines matter given Luka's contract or anything like that, but you're just at that point you're potentially giving up points, and there's just no reason for that.
Yeah, that's the scary thing that you mentioned earlier, is that Luka hasn't found that ceiling yet, and he's so young, and there's definitely a lot of room for growth there.
I mean, just think about that. I mean, all these things that I just said,
right.
And he's still and he's still the last 3 years first team All NBA, which just tells you where the ceiling is.
I mean, you clean up one or two of those things, and I mean, it might be lights out.